Hello and welcome. If you are here, it is likely for two reasons. You are either considering our coaching program or considering booking a call to learn more about our coaching program, or you booked a call and now you just want to learn a little bit more. Either way, if you are here, thank you so much for even considering us in the first place, especially in a world where there's probably countless options and resources and people that you can consider. Just the fact that you're here is something that I'm truly grateful for. So thank you. Um, and by the way, if you're wondering if this is a virtual background, it is not. I am currently in a little mountain town near my home city called Big Bear, California. And I try to come here at least once a year if I can, if the wife permits, just to kind of get a pause on my daily routine and come here to recharge and rest and reflect. So this is where I am. Excuse the background noise. And if you're new to me, my name is Gaurav Villani, and I'm the co-founder of CareerSprout, which is a company that I co-founded in 2016. And since then, we've had the immense pleasure of helping over 800 professionals land 200K to 500K job offers in the tech industry. And so in today's video, it is more just to educate you as quickly as I can about how we go about our job search process and how it might be different than what you're doing or what other people recommend. And this way you can make the best educated decision or intuitive decision to see if it makes sense for you to move forward. Um, and so here's where I'll start. I think it's important to know that our philosophy is that when you're trying to achieve anything meaningful in life, and in our case specifically, landing a high paying job offer at a company you actually admire, doing work that you truly enjoy while getting paid your worth, the first thing I want you to know is that it never comes from tips and tricks. I see a lot of that from people, and I understand why. I'll get messages from job seekers almost every day asking me, can you give me a few tips and tricks on my interview? Or can you give me a few tips and tricks on how to write my resume, or a few tips and tricks on this or that? And my innate sort of issue with tips and tricks is that they are largely unpredictable. You don't know the full picture. And so to me, trying to gather as many tips and tricks as you can from all over the internet or from anyone else, it's to me, it's like you're trying to do a 1,000-piece puzzle set without first seeing the box picture. And so inside of our program, it's not tips and tricks. What we rely on is proven systems that bring predictable results. And a proven system that brings predictable results is like doing a 1,000-piece puzzle set with the box cover first. So when you see the full picture, then you will know what corners to find of the puzzle set. You'll know what needs to go where and why and all the things. And the system that I'm going to teach you today, or walk you through today rather, I just want you to know it's nothing magical. It's not some like patented thing. It is just a very logical system that we have refined over the last 9 years. And when you use this system, or at least what we found is when our clients use this system, number one, it will stack the deck in their favor. Number two, it will give them such an immense amount of clarity that they didn't have before. And the execution then becomes a lot easier, or you could say simple, right? So let's start with talking about the old way of looking for a job. And maybe this is something you're familiar with, or you know someone who is familiar with it. The old way of starting a job, the reason most people start their job search in the first place is usually some reaction to a negative experience. So think about it like this. The reason most people start their jobs is because they either just got laid off, or they're working for a company that's extremely toxic, they feel extremely undervalued, or they feel underpaid, and they want to get away from that negative experience as quickly as they can. And they almost always go about it the same way. They will slap together a resume, and in that resume, they will talk about everything they've ever done. They will overthink it. Should it be 1 page, 3 page, 2 page? What should I talk about? How should I talk about it? As a result, they'll just talk about everything. And then they will begin applying to hundreds of jobs. And some of them might even tell some of their friends and old colleagues or family members to, hey, keep an eye out for me. And then what they will find is a bunch of automated email rejections. Right after they apply, they're getting a lot of emails that say thank you or no thank you, or they're not getting any emails at all, and they're just getting ghosted. And then as time goes on and they keep doing more and more of this, they start feeling discouraged and they start to lose hope. But then all of a sudden, they will land an interview. But usually what will happen is they will bomb that interview. And not because they're dumb, not because they're silly, it's just because they're out of practice. And that interview came so randomly and so suddenly, and now they're putting all this immense pressure on themselves to crush that interview, and they usually go in and choke it. And so what they'll do is they'll come back and they'll continue to apply to more and more jobs. And every now and then they'll get another interview, and then they will bomb it. And then what happens is a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of desperation typically kicks in, and they will say something along the lines of, maybe this is something to do with me. Maybe I'm not as qualified as I think I am. Maybe I should go for a lower level role, or something like that. And then eventually they'll start interviewing or applying for lower level roles. And then inevitably they will get an interview for a lower level role. And then at some point, they will finally get lucky and land a lower level role. And now they started a new job, feeling uninspired, feeling underpaid, feeling undervalued for a job they don't even want to be at. And everything they were trying to avoid when they started their job search is now right back in their reality. And I think that is a terrible way to go about the job search, especially because it yields extremely unfavorable results. So the system that we use inside of our coaching program, and what we would inevitably help you learn if we do end up working together, is the complete opposite of that. We don't want you relying on tips and tricks. We don't want you relying on luck. We want you using a proven system that brings predictable results, so that way you know what's coming. You can handle the job search with ease, flow, and grace. And more importantly, you can actually land something that you're truly proud of, something that moves your career forward, and something that's aligned with what you actually want. And so how we start that with our process is, we don't start with the resume. That's not the first thing that we touch. We don't start with interview prepping. We don't start with networking. We don't start with any of that. The very first thing that we recommend, and the thing that we teach our clients and we take them through, is a process called a career audit. And this audit is where we take a look at who you are holistically, what you've done, how you've done it, what you've helped your companies achieve as a byproduct of the work that you did. And then we take it a step further and we start digging deep on what you actually enjoyed, why you enjoyed it. And the reason we do that is because you have no idea how many times someone comes to me and says, I just want a really good high paying job at a really good company. And then I'll simply say, well, what's a really good job? And they won't know how to answer it. So to me, logically, it makes sense that in order for us to get clear on what good looks like, we should also know what bad looks like first. And so in the process of this audit, we take a good look at a holistic understanding of what you've done in your career, how you've done it, what you've helped your companies achieve, and then what you've enjoyed, when you've enjoyed it, why you've enjoyed it, what types of environments did you thrive in, what type of work did you do that lit you up, where you felt like you were playing to your strengths, you were intellectually curious, you were absolutely crushing it, and you were absolutely thriving. And when we do this audit correctly, what happens is clarity. Now we can see clear trends, a clear path forward of the type of roles you should target based on everything you've done and everything you've enjoyed, and the types of environments in which you would thrive. And now, when we are clear on where you should go next, and make sure that where you're going truly aligns with where you want to be in the long term of your career, now we get to the resume. And if you think about it, most people, as I said, they'll write their resume and they'll talk about everything they ever did. But if you talk about everything you ever did, then logically, how can you ever attract anything new into your life? You will likely end up attracting more of what you've done and more of what you're trying to get away from. So the audit allows us to get clear on where we want to go, make sure that it aligns with who you are as a human and as a professional, and it aligns with your long-term goals. And once we get clear on what that next role should look like, now we will write the entire resume and LinkedIn profile to speak to that next role. And what you're doing as a product of this is you're speaking to your future employers. You're telling your future employer, here's what I've done, here's how I've done it, and here's what I've helped my past companies achieve. That speaks to what you need. And we will do this through a process of studying job descriptions and the career audit and all the things. And I'm not going to bore you with the details here. I'll bore you when we start working together. But that's the second step. So the first step is the audit to get clarity on where we want to go, why we want to go there, and then how we're going to get there is by writing your resume and your LinkedIn profile to speak to that role. So now we know we are chasing or trying to attract the right roles into our life for this season of life. And then the next thing we do is something you've probably heard myself or Katie or our team talk about endlessly, is something that we call proactive outreach. And in this case, what we're doing is we're now, instead of applying to jobs, we are directly reaching out to hiring managers, executives, recruiters, senior leaders, cross-functional stakeholders who work at the companies that you are targeting for the roles you actually want to be in. And if you think about the word logical, remember now it's logical to know what we should say to them because we've already done the career audit. So when we reach out to them, what we're not saying is, hey, I saw this job and I think I'm a good fit. I'd love to chat, because they're not going to respond to that. What we're saying instead is, hey, I was studying the job description you have posted for this VP of product. And in studying for it, I noticed you're looking for someone who has done or has experience with X, Y, and Z things. Well, for the past 10 years, I've done X, Y, and Z. Here's how, and here's what I've helped my companies achieve. If you feel like it makes sense, would you be open to a conversation? That's largely the template that we'll use, but we'll make it very specific to the human that we're reaching out to, because what you say to a recruiter will be very different than what you say to a hiring manager, and what you say to a hiring manager will be very different than what you say to a cross-functional stakeholder. But now, if you think about it, this person who's receiving the message is getting it from somebody whose background aligns with what they need, who has experience doing what they need, who solved the problems that they're going through right now, and even giving them quantifiable achievements of what they actually help their companies achieve as a byproduct. So this makes it really difficult for them to not respond to you. Remember, the old way is I put together a resume and I talk about everything I did and I just sit there and I apply to hundreds of jobs, but that results into a lot of automated rejections or ghosting. This way, what you're doing is you're being very targeted and you're reaching out to people who actually want to speak with you. And I'm not saying everyone, by the way, that you're going to reach out to is going to respond, but we don't need everyone. In our program, we're looking for a 20% or higher conversion rate. So that means out of 100 messages, hypothetically, that you would send, only 20 people need to actually get back to you. Now, if you think about that, that's way better than applying to 100 jobs and maybe getting 1 to 2 interviews. So that's the third step. is proactive outreach and being super intentional about who we're reaching out to and what we're saying to them. We're not sending automated messages. These are very specific, uniquely crafted messages that you're writing to a specific human that can potentially help you move the needle in your job search. So remember, this is a logical flow, right? The audit helps us get clear on what we're going to target next, make sure it aligns with who we are and what we want in this season of life and in the long term. Then the resume and the LinkedIn profile helps you market that correctly and speak to the role you're about to target. Then the outreach allows us to generate interviews. And then what we need to do is practice for those interviews. And in our program, we place a heavy emphasis on two specific areas: what you say in these interviews and how you say them. And most people think you have to prep the same for every single interview, but they fail to realize, especially the higher up you're going, like for these 200K to 500K roles, there's a lot of nuances in each of these different rounds. And so we need to prepare for each round uniquely, right? Because what you say to a recruiter is very different than what you're going to be asked and say to a hiring manager. And that will be very different than what you get asked and say to a cross-functional stakeholder, to a direct report, to a higher up, an executive, like a skip level, which you will get. And so we practice on the stories we're going to use in these interviews, and then how we're going to say these stories in a way that's authentic to you, in a way that doesn't feel scripted, in a way that's sincere and builds rapport and empathy and trust. Those are the three things we're trying to get out of every interview: rapport, empathy, and trust. And if we can do that, then you have a higher chance of moving on to the next round and ultimately your offer. So inside of our program, that's what we focus on. Now, if you again think about it logically, why does this work? Well, if we've done the audit to get clear on what we're targeting, then we know what we're going after, so we know how to market our background to speak to that role. And then we're reaching out directly to hiring managers, executives, recruiters, stakeholders, etc., for these roles. So if you're going for these roles and you know how your background fits, and then you are very aware of the types of questions you will get asked, now you know how to better prepare your stories and how you're going to say them. And that's what we practice inside of our program and help you get better at. And then this is what logically leads to the fifth step, which is you landing your offer. And in this case, we will help you prepare for that offer or negotiate it if needed. So this program, to me, again, is nothing magical. It's nothing, like I said, patented. It's just a very logical system that has been tried, that has been refined, and it has now helped over 800 professionals land 200K to 500K job offers in the tech industry. And so if that is a process that resonates with you and that's something you want to learn more about, then I would encourage you to either continue with booking the call or keep the call that you booked. And then when we speak in that call, we're going to do a few things. We're going to talk about your current situation. We're going to do a mini career audit, and we're going to talk about the gaps that are in your job search now. And then we will even strategize around how to solve for those gaps or those blind spots that you may just not know. And then if it makes sense and we feel like our program is a good fit and you feel like it's a good fit, we'll spend some time talking about how that program actually works. And I'll answer, or we'll answer, any question you have, like how long is it? What's the cadence like? Who you'll be working with? How much are we going to talk? What you can expect from us, what we want to expect from you. I mean, every question you will likely have will then get answered. And I'll also say this, our program, I fully understand it's not going to be for everyone. And if it's not for you by the end of this call, it's okay. And either way, we're just grateful for the time that we're going to spend together. We'll try to do our best to give you as much insight and advice as we possibly can. And worst case scenario, you leave the call, we don't work together, but you now have a much clearer understanding of how to navigate this job market to achieve what you want to achieve. And most importantly, you're doing it with ease, flow, and grace. And hopefully you get to have more fun doing that. So anyway, that's just the short message I wanted to put together today. I truly, truly hope that you get what you're looking for out of our call, or out of our program. And again, I just wanted to say thank you so much for spending some time with me today. And we will look forward to seeing you on the other side. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.